Hello, my name is Tim Porteus. I am a storyteller from, well, Scotland, East Lothian, Prestonpans to be precise. Behind me there's a dramatic cliff. Trepain Law is a great big hill in the middle of East Lothian. It rises like a big beached whale in the middle of our county. You must have noticed it. Unbelievably, up until the 1970s, they were actually destroying Trepain Law by quarrying it, which is why we have this huge cliff behind us. But then they stopped, thankfully, in 1975. But all that banging, all that digging, all those explosions in this ancient rock awoke something that had been sleeping for hundreds of years. And when it rains heavily and the rain drips into its lair, the creature wakes up. It was summer and Jodie was stuck in her living room looking out of her window at the rain pouring down, trickling down the window pane. She was really fed up. All her friends were on holiday, Turkey and Spain. Her mum, who was a single mum, Kath, she couldn't afford a holiday. Last year they'd at least gone to a caravan, but this year they couldn't afford anything. It was so unfair, and she was so fed up. "Oh, Mum," she said, "can we not at least do something?" Well, the rain, of course, meant they couldn't go out for the promised picnic, so she was bored. She went up to her bedroom, looked out the window. For entertainment, she watched the rain trickle down the window pane and then looked out up at the sky to see if she found any sign that this rain would go away. The clouds were dark and brooding. It was an unusual day. I mean, the clouds were swirling and in a way she'd never seen before. Then her eye was caught by movement down in the garden. It was her wee brother, Harris. He's 2. He was cute, but annoying at the same time. He'd got his wellies and his jacket on, and he was in the garden and he was jumping up and down, splashing in the mud and in the puddles. And she watched him and sighed with boredom, thinking of all her friends who were probably lying on the beaches in sunny parts of the world. Life just seemed unfair. And then she looked up again at the clouds and the rain to see if she could see any evidence of sunshine. And then she saw it. She looked up again. There it was again. What's that? She thought to herself. Is it a plane? Wait a minute, it can't be a plane. I mean, a plane's wings don't flap. It's a bird of some sort, but wow, it must be a big bird. Then she looked back down at her little brother, jumping up and down in the puddles, and sighed. But her eye was caught again by movement in the sky. There was something in that. Ah! It came down and grabbed her brother. It was a dragon. A huge, enormous dragon. It had come down from the sky, grabbed her wee brother into its talons and was now flying up into the sky with her wee brother. "Mum! Mum!" She ran down the stairs as quickly as she could, but her mum was on the phone. "Mum! Mum! A dragon's got Harris!" Yes, dear, I'll be with you." "Mum! Mum, you've got to listen." Of course, her mum didn't listen, and so she realised she only had seconds to save her brother. So she ran out into the garden and looked up and could see the dragon beginning to flap its huge wings and disappear into the cloud. Jodie realised she didn't have a moment to spare if she was going to save her wee brother, so she ran out to the garden and she looked up, and there above her the dragon was flying into the cloud with her little brother, her wee brother, clasping its talons. So she looked up and screamed at the top of her voice, "Give me back my wee brother, you ugly, scaly, creepy monster!" It worked. The dragon turned its head, looked down at Jodie, who was standing there with a raging face. The dragon swirled round, swooped down, stretched out its other claw, grabbed her in the talons and flew into the clouds with both Jodie and her little brother Harris. The dragon's wings flapped and the creature disappeared into the mist. And the mum, she was still on the phone, having had no idea what had just happened to her children. The dragon flew high into the sky, holding Jodie in its right talons and her wee brother Harris in its left talons. Her wee brother, well, he didn't seem scared. He was going, whee! He thought it was a bit of fun. He didn't understand the danger he was in. She was terrified. She didn't know where they were going. She couldn't see. It was too cloudy and too misty. But what she could see more closely now was the dragon itself. It had green scales and she could just make out his eyes were red. And then she realised this was a rain dragon. A rain dragon does not breathe fire, but it's incredibly ferocious. After a while, the dragon started to descend. Jodie could feel it. It was still misty. They landed on top of a cliff, on a rocky ledge. This is it, she thought. She saw the bones and the skulls, animal bones and skulls, she hoped. But the dragon, once it had landed, curled up like a cat. It was tired. And with Jodie in one of its claws and her wee brother Harris in the other claws, it fell asleep. This was her time to try and escape, but there was no way. She was held too tightly. But then the dragon moved as it slept, and as it moved, its claws relaxed just enough to allow Jodie to pull herself free. She rushed over to her wee brother. Come on, Harris, let's go, she whispered to him, and she pulled him out. They scrambled up to the top of the ridge. Still misty, they started to run. But her wee brother is only 2, and so she had to pick him up and carry him, and he started to cry. Shh, she said, Harris, don't cry, please don't cry. But he picked up on her terror and her fear, which made him more upset, which meant he cried even louder. You'll wake up the dragon! You'll wake up the dragon! You have to be quiet! It was too late. The dragon opened its eye, and then the other one realised his prey had gone, and Jodie heard behind her the flapping of the dragon's wings. It was coming for them. And then she heard a blood-curdling roar. She daren't look behind, and she looked around. Where was she? They were on top of a hill somewhere. There was no trees, there was nowhere to hide. And then she suddenly saw it. There was a crack in the rock, a narrow entrance. Perhaps they could hide there. She scrambled in, bringing her little brother, and he crouched down as the dragon above them swirled round and squawked and roared and tried its best to get them. For a moment there was silence, and Jodie looked up, and as she looked up, the dragon scratched her on the cheek, and then she bent down again to keep her brother safe. Just then the weather changed. The clouds began to break. The sun came out. The sunshine hit the dragon's scaly skin. Rain dragons don't like sun on their skin. And so the dragon gave out a shriek and flew away. But Jodie still wasn't sure if it was safe. She was still huddling with her little brother, there in the crack in what was the Maiden stone. The Maiden stone is the place where you can make wishes. She didn't know that, but luckily she wished to herself under her breath, I wish it was back home. And when she opened her eyes, she was back in her bedroom with her little brother. The dragon had returned to its lair on top of the cliff on the north face of Trepain Law. Jodie wasn't quite sure if she just maybe dreamt it all. until her mum came into her bedroom and said, "Jodie, what have you done to your face? There's a big scratch on your cheek."